So the 2023 trade deadline has concluded. We now know who owns which picks. So there can be trades after the lottery, but as of now, there won't be any more trades involving draft picks till the 2023 draft lottery. So what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? I'm here with my post-trade deadline first round mock draft. We're doing this on Fanspo, fanspo.com. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. It's the best place to do mock trades and mock drafts. If you guys enjoyed these NCAA college prospect videos, drop a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, so we are going to have the Houston Rockets with the #1 overall pick, even though they have Alperen Şengün, even though they have Tari Eason and Jabari Smith in that front court as well. It's a no-brainer. It's Victor Wembanyama. They'll figure it out then. They'll see if they could play Wemby and Şengün together. And as good as Şengün has been, you probably can sell him at one of his highest value points right now. You can get a great return for Şengün. Maybe you look to package him for a point guard or another wing for this Rockets team. Maybe some more shooting. But yeah, you get Wembanyama here, or you get creative with it. Maybe you put Wemby at the power forward, Jabari Smith at the small forward, and Şengün at the center. That could work if Wemby can be a consistent shooter. His playmaking ability is very underrated. I think his passing skills are very polished for where he currently is. I do think we need to pump the brakes on the Wemby hype just a little bit. He could be the most hyped prospect ever. That is perfectly fine. But people, I think, are going to call him a bust if he isn't a top 5 player after his rookie season or after year 2. It may take some time, but he has all the intangibles to be a top guy in the NBA. He's a no-brainer #1 overall pick going to Houston. So number 2, we're staying in Texas. We have the San Antonio Spurs selecting Scoot Henderson. This is one of the perfect fits for him. Trey Jones has been a good and I think underrated point guard this season, but you can have Trey Jones go to the bench, work that second unit. You get Scoot Henderson, has insane athletic ability, playmaking ability, like decision making. Coming out of the G League Ignite, you're pairing him up with Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Jeremy Shohan, Malachi Branham, Blake Wesley. The Spurs have a really good track record of developing players. I think Scoot Henderson wouldn't be an exception to that. He's going to be the 2nd overall pick going to the Spurs. With the 3rd pick, this gets interesting because I believe Amen Thompson is on a lot of people's consensus boards at number 3 right now. I personally think Brandon Miller is a better prospect, but not by much. Amen Thompson's my 4. Brandon Miller is my 3. With LaMelo Ball here, would you take Amen Thompson? Do you think they could coexist in that backcourt? But I think they would make it work. It's positional as basketball. This is what I'm predicting to do. I would take Brandon Miller here, but in my mock, it's going to be Amen Thompson, the insane athletic guard out of the overtime elite. We haven't seen an overtime elite player go in the 1st round. We've had a couple players in the past from them, like Gene Montero, and hopefully Amen Thompson is one of the reasons LaMelo Ball would eventually stay. So he's going number 3 here to the Hornets. Next up at pick 4, we have the Detroit Pistons. I kind of spoiled this pick already. It's going to be Brandon Miller. They just traded away Sadiq Bey, so there's kind of an opening spot at that 3 position. You have Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham in the backcourt. You now kind of have a crowded front court of Bojan Bogdanovic, Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Duren, James Wiseman. You get somebody that could plug in there at the 3. Insane length, insane defensive upside in Brandon Miller. He could shoot the 3. He can attack the rim. As of late at Alabama, he did struggle with that aspect in the beginning of the season, but I think playing next to Cade Cunningham would do wonders for his game. And I mean wonders. Doing the pick and roll, the pick and pop with Cade Cunningham, dribble handoffs even. Yeah, I could watch that for 82 games. So yeah, we got Brandon Miller going to the Pistons. Number 5, we have the Orlando Magic. Now, we kind of have their 3-4-5 figured out. It's Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr. Now, at least Franz and Banchero are franchise guys there. Point guard and shooting guard, it's a little bit interesting because you took Suggs High. You'd hope to be that guy. He hasn't really shown that yet. You do have Markelle Fultz. You do have Cole Anthony. I'm going to have them take a Sword Thompson, somebody they can probably play between the 1, the 2, and the 3. They'll see where he can develop. He is a project player. I don't think he's going to be great right away. He is the twin brother of Amen Thompson. I don't think he has as high of an upside as his twin, but he definitely has that elite presence that he could bring to Orlando and fit right in there between Franz Banchero and Carter Jr. at that 2 spot, and then whoever they decide to go at the point guard spot with their future. With the 6th overall pick, I'm going to have the Indiana Pacers select Jarace Walker. Now, just for me, like, I'm going to put this out there. I'm not a big Jarace Walker fan. He is not a top 10 prospect for me at the moment. He's currently on the Houston Cougars, who are one of the best teams in the country right now. A lot of people have him in their top 7, and I think this would be an interesting fit between Miles Turner and Benedict Mathurin in Indiana. I could get along with that. I just don't love Walker's kind of presence right now because I don't know if his shooting ability is going to translate to the next level, and we'll see if his size at 6'7", playing up a little bit, can go up against NBA frontcourt players. Now, we've seen it in the past. Like, I mean, we've seen Draymond undersized. We've seen PJ Tucker undersized. Tari Eason right now doing fairly well undersized as a rookie. So this isn't anything new. Walker can definitely play there. He's a physical guy. I'm just a little wary if he's going to translate to the defensive level, because that's a big thing for him, and his shot as well. We'll see, but this is my pick to the Pacers at 6. It's a mock, not a big board. Next up, we have the Toronto Raptors with the 7th overall pick. I'm going to have them select Nick Smith out of Arkansas. Man, this guy has so much potential. He is so skilled. He is so talented, but he's just been beaten up with injuries this year out of Arkansas. But I think Toronto is a team that has a good development track, and they could do that with Nick Smith. Even if he needs to like ease his way in, he would learn under Fred VanVleet. He could be the 1. He could be the 2. You don't really want to touch that front court right now because you have Scotty Barnes at the 3, Siakam at the 4, and Jakob Poeltl at the 5, or whatever they're doing there, because they were kind of a head scratcher at the deadline. But yeah, Nick Smith is going to be my pick for them going here at number 7. Number 8, we have the Pelicans selecting Cam Whitmore, one of my favorite players in this class. I definitely have him ranked higher on my big board than number 8. I think the Pelicans should probably stay away from those defensive guard types, because you have Dyson Daniels, you have Jose Alvarado, you have Herb Jones, you're already starting McCollum. I think you can go for another wing, pair him up with Trey Murphy as well in that small forward depth, which I think is perfect. I guess you're also adding him to that Brandon Ingram fold, but he could play, I think, the 2. He could play the 4. It's just like about his defensive ability, but I think he'll be okay. He's a great scorer. I love his potential. Nova hasn't been great this year, but Cam Whitmore is still a lottery pick in my opinion. Remember when I was talking about the Magic before, getting that 2 guard spot next to their front court for the future and try to figure out at the backcourt? Yeah, why don't you take Keontae George out of Baylor? This guy could be a 3-level scorer at the next level. This is the pick from the Chicago Bulls. So hey, if you whiff on this pick, it doesn't hurt that much. Like this pick you got from the Vucevic trade, you're playing with house money because you already won the trade since you got Franz Wagner and Wendell Carter Jr. So I think you take a flyer on Keontae George. He has a low floor, but I think he has a really high ceiling. Washington Wizards picking at number 10 again. This is where they took Johnny Davis last year, and that's looking like one of the worst picks in the first round. But they're going to be taking Anthony Black here out of Arkansas, the 2nd Arkansas Razorback in the top 10, joining Nick Smith. Anthony Black has elite defensive guard potential. He is somebody that could be perfect next to Bradley Beal. He can go in transition. He can rebound really well for his position. He's 6'7". I think he's got great court vision, and I think he's honestly the perfect guard next to Bradley Beal. You're telling me you got maybe an Anthony Black, Bradley Beal, Kispert/Avdia, Kyle Kuzma, KP starting 5. I mean, it's not perfect, but if Anthony Black can develop into like a top 10 point guard one day, or a top 13, 14 point guard one day, it's not a bad place to start. At number 11, we are going to have the Portland Trailblazers select Kyle Filipowski out of Duke. Now, I do not have him this high on my big board. I like guys like Grady Dick, Jed Howard, Cason Wallace, Maxwell Lewis over him, but I think Portland desperately needs to take somebody in that front court. Yusuf Nurkic is not that guy. And if you're not going to upgrade via trade or a mid-level exception on somebody you can get better than Nurkic in the offseason, you hope to take the freshman out of Duke who's got great size. He's a physical player. He could shoot the ball a little bit, and you could pair him up next to Jeremy Grant next season. You know what? If you whiff on this pick, you whiff on this pick. I think you got to try to hit the home run here. You already have kind of Shaedon Sharpe and Anthony Simons out there that are going to be kind of demanding the ball on the wings, so I didn't really want to take a wing that like would rely on their scoring ability, so I'm going to go with Filipowski here, and hopefully he can replace Nurkic down the line. At number 12, we're going to have the Utah Jazz select Cason Wallace out of Kentucky. They just traded away Mike Conley at the deadline. Russ is either going to be on the Jazz for the remainder of this year, or he's going to get bought out. But there's an opening at the point guard spot next year. Colin Sexton doesn't look like he's a point guard long term. He's more of like a 2. So you pair him up with Cason Wallace in that backcourt. Somebody that I think is going to be a good enough scorer at the NBA level, a good passer. His ball handling ability is really good. Now, Kentucky hasn't been great this year, but that is not on Cason Wallace. I think you add him to that Utah Jazz young core, and you're sitting pretty. At number 13, we're going to have the OKC Thunder select Jed Howard. He could play the 2. He could play the 3. Hell, you could even put him at the 4 in some small ball lineups. Yes, they already have Shea and Giddey in that backcourt, but I mean, like, Trey Mann is probably taking a step back this year. You can put him, like I said, at the 3. He can rival Lou Dort. He's a great scorer. Like, that's his ability, man. This guy can score out of the gym. He's a hooper. I'm not sure if that's OKC would specifically want. Maybe they're looking to add some defense, but in that front court, maybe they're looking at somebody that could play the 4. But I think Jed Howard is a top 10 talent in this draft, so I think you're getting great value here at 13. And at 14, we're going to be adding Grady Dick to the Golden State Warriors to wrap out the lottery. Dick, an elite Okay, I'm so immature. Grady is an elite three-point shooter at Kansas right now. You can add him to that fold in Golden State, their motto, add him to the Splash Brothers. So you would have Curry, you'd have Clay, you have Jordan Poole, you have Wiggins. We'll see what happens with Draymond. We'll see who their starting centers next year, but you can have Grady Dick under a 4-year deal coming off the bench. He's only 19. He's already an elite three-point shooter. Like, you know how like Corey Kispert goes high in some drafts like he did a couple years ago, but he was on the older side coming out of Gonzaga. Well, there's a reason Dick will go so high in this draft because of elite three-point shooting ability, but he's only going to be 19 or 20 on draft night. Like, that's so valuable. All right, so we're going to go through this pretty quickly. In the back half of the first round, we have the Utah Jazz via Minnesota here, so they get another first-round pick. I love Maxwell Lewis out of Pepperdine, out of a smaller school, but this guy can really shoot the ball. He's a solid rebounder. He's a good three-point shooter. He's a really good free throw shooter, which means I think his shooting ability is going to translate to the next level. If you're trying to like get your eyes on a smaller school player, it's definitely Maxwell Lewis, adding him to Utah. At 16, we have the LA Lakers via the Pelicans in the pick swap. So they're going to take Bryce Sensabaugh out of Ohio State. A good scorer, another wing, adding that to their core. At 17, we have the Atlanta Hawks. I'm going to have them take Chris Murray out of Iowa, brother of Keegan Murray. They need somebody that's NBA ready right now because the Hawks are trying to win. We don't know what's going on with John Collins in the offseason, but either it's Anelka Okongwu or Clint Capella at the starting 5 next year. Chris Murray can help space the floor as your starting power forward. He's going to Atlanta. Rockets here at 18, they could take these developmental guys. I have them taking Ryan Rupert out of France. Extremely raw of a prospect, but he has all the intangibles to be a good player at the NBA next level. I think he has good defensive upside. I've been watching a couple more highlights on him. He's definitely going to be one of the wild cards in this upcoming draft. I'm sure he's going to get a lot of pre-draft hype as we get closer in June. Going to the Rockets here at 18. At number 19, I'm going to have the New York Knicks select Gregory Jackson out of South Carolina. He's a polarizing prospect. Some people love him. Some people don't like him as much, but it's looking like the Knicks might move on from Obi Toppin in the offseason. They can look at somebody that could replace those minutes that has high defensive upside, and that's Gregory Jackson, in my opinion. So that Knicks pick was from Dallas. We have the Knicks picking again at 20, but this is going to the Blazers in the Josh Hart deal. I'm going to have them take Jalen Hood-Schifino out of Indiana. They really haven't had, like, consistent backup point guard behind Damian Lillard in quite a while. So yeah, they're going to get Hood-Schifino under a 4-year deal. At 21, we have the Brooklyn Nets via the Suns. So this is the pick they got from Kevin Durant. I'm going to have them take James Naji, a center out of Nigeria. Just can get minutes behind Nick Claxton. They do need some big man depth. Miami at 22, I'm going to have them take Leonard Miller, somebody that has good upside, but definitely a low floor. You hope to project him to somebody that could play next to Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler, because we're not too sure if that's going to be Nikola Jovic now. At 23, I'm going to have the Sacramento Kings select Taylor Hendricks out of UCF. This guy has been rising up draft boards as of late, a physical 6'9" freshman. He's a good three-point shooter. He's a good rebounder. He's somebody that you could put between Keegan Murray at the 3 and Domantas Sabonis at the 5 in the long term. I actually love this pick for Sacramento. It's one of my favorite in this draft. At 24, we're going to have the Brooklyn Nets select a high upside player, Dariq Whitehead. He was a top 5 preseason guy to go in this draft. Injuries has really hurt him. Poor play has hurt him. But I think he's worth the pick here for Brooklyn if it's your second first-round pick, and you already have a ton of talent on your roster. At 25, I've Marcus Sasser out of Houston, second Houston player here in the first round, going to Memphis. He's probably a little bit higher than some people are projecting him to go, but I think he could have like that Andrew Nembhard trajectory. He can go to Memphis. Maybe they're not going to be able to afford Tyus Jones when he's a free agent in a year, and he could be a good experienced backup point guard behind Ja. At 26, we have the Pacers getting the Cavs pick. This is from the Caris LeVert trade. I'm going to have them select Derek Lively. I don't love him as a prospect because he definitely has his flaws. He doesn't play too much for Duke, but he does have the size, kind of the frame that you think could be good at the next level. He's not the greatest rebounder, but he could be a project play for Indiana. It could be him or Khalil Ware here to go at the end of the first round. We have the Utah Jazz picking again. This is from the Royce O'Neal trade that Philly sent their pick to Brooklyn, back from the James Harden trade, so this pick has been all over the place. I have them selecting Jordan Hawkins out of UConn. Hawkins is a sophomore, and he has been a great three-point shooter in his Huskies tenure. Good pick for the Jazz in the late first round. Another good three-point shooter going off the board here to the Charlotte Hornets at the 28th pick. This pick is from Denver that I believe the Knicks sent them on draft, and it could be wrong. I'm going to have them take Colby Jones out of Xavier. Hopefully, like at this point, maybe James Bouknight just isn't the answer long term. term. Colby Jones, a little bit more experience come out of Xavier, and he's been improving his three-point shot each and every year he's been there. Next up, we have Terquavion Smith going to the Clippers at 29. I think they could take the chance on him. He was supposed to be a top 20 pick last year, but he stayed at NC State. With his usage going up, you were going to hope his efficiency went up because he was below 40% from the field, but a good three-point percentage. But his efficiency did drop, unfortunately, so it's going to hurt his draft stock. But I think the Clippers can afford that at pick 29. And then with the last pick in the first round, we have the Indiana Pacers from the Malcolm Brogdon trade. They're going to be taking Noah Conley, a freshman out of Alabama. Physical power forward, taking another one after Jarace Walker earlier in the draft. So yeah, there's my post-trade deadline first round mock draft. Let me know if you like the player that I had going to your favorite team or just any specific selections in general. If you do like these mock drafts, drop a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. Hope you guys have a great day. I love y'all, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.